Hi, everybody. This is Logan. We're here at Don't
Don't
Look
look
at
at
the
the
Bus.
bus.
And I'm joined with my co host, Candace.
Hey everyone, happy to see you here with us. Glad you want to hear our voices a little more. They
Oh.
are a bit sultry.
Oh, yeah. It's like, well, let's get into it here before we get our viewers aroused.
Oh jeez.
Let me, gosh, what was I going to talk about? Oh, here we go. So we're going to do a anything goes.
Mhm.
Well, that's even adds to the sultry. So, or I guess
Within reason.
we're going to go with whichever way it goes. uh, we're-
You're ridiculous.
So we're going to talk about anything that almost comes to mind because we're running out of ideas at this moment. No.
No, we're not.
No, okay.
No.
I was being too honest. Let's see. But I do want to talk about a book that I have been listening to on Audible. It's called The Sky Stone.
Ooh,
And
this
it's
is new to me.
Part of the Camelot series by, what's his name? Jack White, and that's W-H. Y-T-E, I believe. I just want to double check and make sure I'm not mixing it up with Jack White of the White Stripes.
Oh, who I love. Seven Nation Army. Seriously?
Fuck yeah.
That is one of my all-time favorite songs. It brings back so many good memories.
I love that one. I like the like normally I'm not really for remakes or even for gosh, what do you call it?
Wait, was that a
Covers?
remake?
No.
Okay.
No, but somebody does a really good. There's actually a couple of versions I do like.
Well, there's the book jukebox.
Oh, jukebox.
What is it?
We are terrible.
Oh
at
my
this.
gosh!
We can get our shit
Please
together.
edit this shit out.
Oh no, I'm gonna keep it all. Jukebox.
Postmodern Jukebox.
Postmodern
Thank
Jukebox.
you. Okay,
They have
so
they
thank
have
you to myself. Postmodern Jukebox does a rendition of Seven Nation Army by Jack White. Is it with the White Stripes? Because I know it's just him and his sister.
Well, no, I thought it was. That's his wife.
His wife.
Yeah.
I don't know. God, I don't know musicians anymore. I don't know who likes who, who's related to who. I don't pay attention. All I pay attention to is whether or not they can put good music on the radio. That's all I care about.
I'm gonna get back to my story.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
God,
Tangents.
Such a fucking microphone hog. Let's see that story, The Sky Stone. Well, it's part of the Camelot series by Jack White, W-H-Y-T-E. It's about well, let me just tell you what it is. Jack White, what he does in the series is he takes the Arthurian legend of Camelot and makes it less fantastical, and more reasonable makes it more realistic. So
Wait, does he take power away from Merlin? Because I loved Merlin.
No. What he does is he actually makes everything more believable.
Okay.
So he takes the stories that are from the Britannic legends of old, and what he does is like the series starts with the Sky Stone, and it's about King Arthur's father and his friend, and they're both part of last of Rome's legions that are in Britannia, and they need to survive there because Rome has failed. Rome has fallen, and the Britons and the Picts are all scrambling to take back Britain from the Romans, and they don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to be able to survive under Pict or Briton rule, or if they're going to be able to fight as Romans still and just make their way through life. Well, they're able to manage it. They're able to manage it through life. Well, the last of his legions are there in Britain are stuck, and they settle down and have families and everything. Well, one day a comet or a asteroid or whatever, like a meteor, falls to the earth and it hits a lake near his town, near the village that he's living in.
Is it a dragon?
No. And he saw it fall and hit the water, and it caused a big splash and everything. Well, he gets his friends to help him drain the lake because they're legions and legionnaires, and legions had civil engineering, so they could build almost anything. They were trained in a lot of different things, so he was able to drain the lake and get the asteroid and take the metal from the asteroid and create a sword. And what Jack White does here is creates the Lady in the Lake. Not Lady in the Water. Yeah, Lady of the Lake. Yeah, Lady in the Lake.
This reminds me of Monty Python.
Yeah, it was like, oh, a tot throws a sword at you. Doesn't mean
Just because in watery tot throws a sword at you doesn't mean you're the
rightful ruler. Or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's been a while
Monty
since I've seen it.
Python. If you haven't watched Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail, watch it.
No, it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You
Well,
fucking scrub.
I'm so, oh, forgive me if I'm speaking a little British here.
Okay. Come at me, bro. Well,
Come at me, down tot.
tot.
You tot, you.
Anyway.
Sorry, that's how white boys ever said it to me.
Jeez. Okay. But anyway, the story is awesome. It just paints a wonderful picture. It makes people who aren't really into fantasy more inclined to listen to a fable or a story, especially one that still carries weight to this day, even though it's like more than almost 2,000 years old. Well, I wouldn't even say that. Probably 1,600, 16 to 1,700 years old. But it's a wonderful story. I do recommend it. Jack White novels called The Camelot.
I don't know.
Yeah. Camelot. Camelot with a D, not T.
Like moolah, but moulad.
Moulad.
Like
yeah.
Mulan, but moulad.
Moulad. It's British, or it's early Gaelic.
Okay.
But you were gonna tell me a neat story, weren't you?
I don't really remember.
You don't remember the story?
No.
God, we are
What
running
was
a two-bit
our
operation.
story about? What did we decide this?
Well, we were gonna talk about our favorite, like.
Oh, King of the Wind. Okay.
Yeah.
So we were actually going to talk about our favorite books, and in doing so, all throughout my reading history. So I want to say, since I really got into books 3rd or 4th grade, there was one book in particular. I think I've read it like 10 or 20 times. Not even exaggerating. King of the Wind. And King of the Wind is a story about a horse and a boy who helped raise him, not to be confused with C.S. Lewis, A Horse and His Boy. Although I love C.S. Lewis, Chronicles of Narnia,
Oh, the prince.
super fan.
Horse and the prince, or-
No, The Horse and His Boy. Huge fan. So King of the Wind is actually a story about a young slave boy. I can't remember the country he's in. India, I want to say? No. So my awesome friend Logan here is looking up all the particulars for me while I'm trying to discuss this book that I've read 20 times. Morocco, thank you. So this story takes place in Morocco, and it's, yes, I know that part. It's during Ramadan, which is a feast. And this foal is born. His name is...
No.
No, no. So
His
this
name's Ramadan.
no, Ramadan is something else. So there's this foal that's born, and he is born with a wheat ear, which is a symbol of
Bad luck.
bad luck. And which is funny because actually he keeps bringing good luck to Agba, which is the kid or young lad who helps this foal be born into this world. And I don't want to give too many details about this story, but throughout many years, Agba and this foal, what is the horse's name? He gives him a name, and
Sham.
Sham. Thank you. Okay, so Sham, actually, interesting story. My mom, mother, she grew up on a farm, and she actually raised a lot of horses. Like, she was involved in the horse process. And
She was an equestrian.
yes, she actually was the rodeo queen for yeah, no,
Royalty, are
she
ya?
was rodeo royalty, and I want to say I would be too, but we actually were raised closer to the city as opposed to the country, so we didn't get raised around horses much. I rode them as a young girl, but never in a rodeo or 4-H or anything like that. So anywho, maybe, honestly, now that I think about it, maybe that's why this story stuck with me for so long, is because I could never be a part of 4-H or anything because I didn't have horses.
Oh.
I just,
You could have chickens.
we have chickens?
Yeah.
Chicken eggs, solid. Best eggs ever. If you've never had actual farm fresh chicken eggs, I encourage you, do it.
I miss my chickens. I had 4 of them. We had one we had 4 of them. 2 of them were redheads. Both were named Betty and Wilma. And then we had 2 zebra chickens. They were barred rock hens. And what was it? I named one. I forgot what I named one of them, but the other one was Oprah. And
Oprah.
because she kept giving me eggs. You get an egg. You get an egg. You get an egg.
Did I ever tell you about my chicken physical therapy?
Yes, I saw that.
Should I tell them about that?
Mhm.
Okay, so before I get back into the story of King of the Wind, I will tell you about chicken therapy, which is actually a real thing. So my family, yes, we have a farm and we have chickens on it, but every once in a while, and most farmers will know this, chicks will be born and they won't be able to walk properly. And so when this would happen, my mom would actually bring them home and we would give them a good life until they passed naturally. So they would have food and water and such. Well, sometimes a sick chick would come home and it would just be their legs. Like their muscles were out of alignment or their bones were a little out of place. And so what I would do is every day and this was back when I was in high school. So every day I'd come home from high school and I would pick these chicks up and I would train them to use their muscles and their bones and everything in a different way and actually train them to walk properly. And it would take a couple weeks, but eventually they would be able to run up and down our hallway, which I want to say is at least 100, 200 feet. You've been in my house, you know how long that hallway is. And so once they learned how to walk on their own, I would slowly train them to run toward me and run away from me. It was just a lot of fun. But we went through this process of chicken physical therapy. And so once they were able to run and live on their own, we would introduce them back into the big chicken house and make sure that they were accepted before we just kind of let them be.
They had to prove themselves.
They
to
had,
the chicken
they did,
lord.
they did, they did. We actually had a rooster who he was actually a very good rooster for a while.
Oh, I was gonna say, was he the cock of the walk?
Anyways, so yes, chicken physical therapy is a thing. I've done it and it has proven itself time and time again. I want to say that on my resume, I could say I've trained at least 5 chickens to walk proper.
And they would look at you and be like, I don't think they need your help.
They did. We actually had this really cute chick that he didn't survive, but he was so fun in the process. His name was Pirate, and he couldn't walk, and his beak was a little contorted, so he made more of an X shape with his beak. But in his days that he was with us, he was fun, he was sporadic, he would jump and fly and eat all the food we gave him. He was wild. So, yeah, like I said, chicken physical therapy is a real thing. It's not always fun because sometimes they don't make it through, but sometimes you're able to rehabilitate them and they can be introduced back into their little horde of chickens and everything's good.
Now back to the story.
So
We're going to change our name from Don't Look at the Bus to ADHD.
So, Don't Look at the Bus. Where did I leave off? I'm trying to remember. So, you have Sham the horse. You have Agba, the young servant who was servant to the Sultan. So, it's this wild story about Sham, this beautiful Arab horse, Arabian horse, sorry, who has this wheat ear, which is a symbol of bad luck. And I remember this one part in the book. Granted, it's been a few years since I've read it. Holy crap, I just remembered the other book that I actually really, really like. Oh, we'll have to do it in a different story. Maybe I can fit into both. Anyways, so this horse, he makes it all the way to being the Sultan's favorite horse, from what I remember. And Agba manages to... Oh man, this is one of those moments where my brain is so full of facts that I can't remember anything. In a nutshell, Sham, this horse, he goes from being a cart puller and he works his way into the Sultan's regime of horses or something. And can we pause it?
Okay, yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, we just keep talking.
Oh no, I'm this is one of those moments where I cannot remember how it ends. I know they end up together, but I can't remember the climax of the story. And it's my favorite part, but yeah, he wins a race and it God, it
Out of bankruptcy.
I really can't remember the details, but honestly, it is one of the most uplifting moments in book history for me, besides The Cage of the Animals at Night, which that I can tell you cover to cover. It is a crazy story about a foster boy. His mom has like 4 or 5 kids, and she's just like, well, I'm just gonna put my last youngest kid in the foster care system because she can't afford it because she gets sick. And so this kid, his name is Michael Jennings Birch, and he goes through his whole life of going from foster home to foster home. And when I say foster home, I mean like Catholic church orphanage. And so he goes through all these different Catholic churches. He gets beat. He gets in trouble for wetting the bed when he's still potty training. Like, the kid is under so much stress as it is. So all these nuns, they come in and they beat the crap out of him. And the whole time he has this one teddy bear that he has as his only friend. And anytime he wants to go anywhere, which his favorite place is the zoo, he rides the bus. And so this bus driver, Sal, he gets to know him and he wants to love him, and he learns his history, his family, everything. And so you see this Michael Jennings Birch, he goes from foster home to foster home, whether they're poor as can be or they have all the money in the world, and he is just trying to make everything make sense. And so he spends some nights at the zoo in it's from what I remember, it's kind of like by the garbage can. He just kind of makes a shelter for himself, and he just lives. He survives. He doesn't live. He survives. And so there's this one day where Sal, like I said, it's been a few years since I read the book, but he meets the mom, and I think he marries Michael Jennings Burt's mom. And so he picks up the kid.
Every time you say Michael Jennings, I always
Birch.
I always think you're gonna say Michael J. Fox, and I'm like,
Michael Jennings.
I'm anticipating
and see, that's
Michael J. Fox.
And that's part of the story is he has like all these first names, Michael Jennings Birch, and so he picks him up and he's like, you don't have to go here anymore. Like you can come home with me. And so Sal, this bus driver, learns his story and picks him up and takes care of him and his mom and his siblings, and it's just it's this beautiful story of just a man who loves and cares and sees a need and meets it. And this kid and his whole story, it just tugs you by the heartstrings. It's wild. And I've read it 4 or 5 times, but that's because I can't remember shit. So that's why I read books over and over and over again. You know, like King of the Wind. I don't remember the details, but you remember these stories of, you know, they can be people or animals just trying to survive, trying to make sense of everything around them, and at the end they do, and it's real. And I would want to say that's what any of us are actually trying to do. We're trying to make sense of everything around us, and once we do, we're like, okay, I've fought the fight. I've learned what I need to learn. What's next? Right?
Right.
And I love books like that. Ones that bring you a conclusion. Because life, it does bring you a conclusion, and then you're able to move on. It's rare that we find things in our life where we're like, okay, I'm going. Well, what do I do now? I don't know, but how about something else? It's kind of rare that things don't wrap up.
Yeah. That's that's kind of how I like, or what I think about like history books.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've actually really read a novel by anybody. Well, I mean, I have. I've read a few of them, especially in school, but I couldn't tell you most of them. I couldn't tell you how, I could tell you what the premise is, but I couldn't tell you the in-between. I could just tell you how it ends. But there's only been like maybe a couple of books that have really garnered my attention as a kid and as an adult. And the first one, I would probably say Holes. I can't tell you who the author is, but Holes.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Everyone knows Holes.
Everybody knows Holes.
Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf.
Just do it.
Just do it. Well, anyway, the book, I really liked the book. I read it in 4th grade. Finished it before everybody else because I loved it. It was such a great book. It really. I know that's. I know I'm 25 years old and I'm talking about a book for fourth graders, but
hey, they have some good values in them. And they have some good lessons that even adults need to relearn.
It's like Hank the Cowdog.
I've read every single Hank the Cowdog book.
Yes! Oh
what?
my God, I
what?
didn't know that. I did not know that. Yes. All right, yes.
Every single book. It got me through Accelerated Reader.
Mm-hmm.
Every
Yep.
book.
Yep.
No. Okay,
Yeah.
you guys, this is a pivotal moment in our friendship.
Yes.
Cheers.
It's empty, but it's...
Oh, it doesn't
but it
matter.
works.
Hank the freaking Cowdog, Drover, the cat.
Yep.
I mean, Slim.
Slim.
Oh my God, we're gonna have a whole episode talking about Hank the Cowdog.
I missed that book series.
Oh.
And I didn't realize this until actually just a moment ago, but Hank the Cowdog is a fucking Western. It's a Western series. Yes, it is. And I never like, who the fuck, and like as I was growing up, I always thought, who the fuck reads Westerns? And then I realized just a moment ago that Hank the Cowdog is a fucking Western.
Yes. Oh gosh. Can we just have a moment, just like 1 minute moment? Okay. So you have Hank the Cowdog,
Hank,
Drover, Slim.
You have
the cat.
I can never remember the cat's name.
Pete. Who was Pete? Was Pete Slim's friend?
Yes, Pete was Slim's friend. He was the
Sally.
other guy.
Sally was the lady.
Was the basically Hank's mom, human mom.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Wait.
Pete, and then Drover.
Yeah. Wait, cat. Pete was the cat.
No, Pete
No.
was
Who was the
Slim's
cat?
friend. I don't remember the cat's
Oh,
name,
crap.
but they had a.
You have all these stories about Hank the Cowdog, and it was all of his stories on how he would help Slim. For lack of a better term, Hank the Cowdog thought he was actually in charge of everything that happened on the farm.
He was just like a farm hand. He always thought he was the foreman.
Yes.
And I always read when I would read the books, I always read it with that deep cowboy sound. And
Really?
he always thought he was Drover's mentor,
Oh
because
my
Drover
God.
was a young pup, and he always thought he was teaching him a lesson, yeah, women, they're like buses. You can stand and wait around for one, but the next one will come along,
That reminds me of the last episode.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't come along.
Yeah, bus drivers don't.
Bus drivers, freaking A. No, that's so funny that we actually read the same book series.
Pete the Barn Cat.
Okay,
Sally
so
Mae, Drover.
Pete was the barn cat. And it's funny that you imagine Hank the Cowdog as this low tone. Because I always thought of him as, oh, this is bad.
Man,
he would just be talking like this.
No.
Oh no, we're going to go into the barn and see what happens.
No,
and I found him very silly.
And in the way that I always imagined Drover was oh yeah, let's go do this.
Yeah,
Let's kinda
okay.
we're
And then
gonna-"
Pete was like, hey,
Yeah, he was just
kind of
Yeah.
snake-like
yeah,
almost,
but he was just
you
always
know? Because
I always kind of imagined him a very passive aggressive
Yeah,
person, because
yeah.
that's what cat
and
personalities
then
are.
Sally
They're
is
just
just super loud.
oh,
right?
Hank! Yeah,
Hank the Cowdog!
wow, that was loud. She was
Sorry.
always
I tried to hold it back.
a Texas woman, or just a woman from the South. What are you doing?
Yep.
You need to get, or Slim, why don't you go back out there and fetch me some
And then
hay
you have-
bales? I don't know.
You have Slim, your typical cowboy, who's like, all right, Sally Mae, I'll get to the back 40 when I come home.
No, I always
I-
imagine his voice well, damn it, Sally. All right, fine, I'm gonna go out there, because she's always yelling at him. And he's
It's
I'm
true.
just trying to
It's
work
true.
here, man. But anyway, what were we talking about? Oh
No.
yeah, books.
Yeah, we were
books.
talking about books, and
Okay.
it's just funny that we discovered on this episode that we actually read the same series. I mean, okay, one question. Bunnicula.
I think I read maybe one.
Oh my gosh.
One.
Whole series. Loved it.
They apparently had a cartoon. Yeah,
No.
they had a cartoon.
I'm sure it ruined it.
No, it was a cartoon. It was called Bunnicula, and it actually was pretty funny. I even watched a couple
I-
episodes as an adult.
I
was on
think I would actually
Disney
read
Channel?
Bunnicula.
Whatever.
I would. I would
It-
still read it. I
and-
mean, I hate books, but I love reading, which is strange. But
Anyway, as I was saying, books never really gauged me, even as a kid. But there was only a couple, like Holes, Hank the Cowdog, Mice
They
and
caged-
Men.
they cage the animals at night.
That was for you.
That was for me.
But as an adult,
Oh.
I've never really books. They don't. I always start reading one, and then I get bored with it, or it inspires me, so I drop it and I go do something that's related to it. I've been working on a book for about 3 years now.
Can't wait
and
to get a
only-
little reading of it.
I've only got 35 pages of it, and
It's
that's
something.
just the intro, because it's going to be an encyclopedia.
Trust me, I've heard about it, and I can't wait to start reading it.
It's big.
Oh, this is bad.
Oh, this is bad. But there was one book that I read, and I know some of you are going to sigh, and some of you are going to be like, oh, dude, shut up. But
Battlefield Earth.
how did you know my religion?
I'm sorry, I can't help
Hey,
it. I've
hey,
just been seeing the nose clamps and
Hey, you what you do really well at?
what?
A Thetan reading.
What?
A Thetan reading.
A Thetan?
You know what a Thetan?
No.
Yeah, it's these little things inside your body that they're aliens. They're alien ghosts.
So kind of wait, that reminds me of yoga. In yoga, you invite these parasites into your spine. It's
These ones, they're your soul, basically. So
Sorry,
no,
am I-
no. But anyway,
Anyways.
let me get back into it.
we're
So,
getting weird. Sorry.
The book is World War Z by Max Brooks.
The one they made a movie of?
Yes, but that movie was, and I know, I'm gonna sound like that person that says, "Oh, the movie's never as good as the book."
Well, 90% of the time that's true because cinema cannot fit in
that much because
everything.
they have a time
okay,
limit.
can I just?
But
can
shut up. Let me
I
get
just
into
be a
this.
fangirl for 10 seconds?
Yeah, go for it.
Fangirl for 10 seconds. I read the entire Twilight series, and the movies did not do them justice.
Okay.
Go.
Well, anyway, so that movie destroyed, had nothing to do with the damn book. The book painted this wonderful picture. It delved into so many things. It was basically, it's a history book.
Mhm.
It's not a novel. It's not telling you a first person story of one person. It's telling you multiple stories of people from around the world.
Mhm.
It doesn't jump back to different people.
Okay.
What it is it's an interviewer after, it's like 10 years.
It's like Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, kind of. But
Okay.
it's like 10 years after the end of World War Z, but there's still zombies roaming around, but humanity is able to get them in check, is able
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
wait them out, kind of deal, and regrow and take
Gotcha.
back what was stolen by the dead.
Kind of reminds me of Daywalkers.
Yeah, a little bit. They
I know it's different scenario, different.
yeah. But this
I get it.
This was amazing because they delved into what happened before, the build-up, during, after, and the remaining effects, like Russia becomes like this, what do you call it, becomes like a,
A
kinda like
superpower?
no, I would say a caliphate for orthodoxy, almost, and then
Okay.
places that were very hard to reach, accessible-wise,
Mhm.
like island nations and even like Himalayas.
Oh, that's a whole other story. Dude.
Kathmandu
Oh, I love Kathmandu.
became basically a world power because
What?
it's
No.
amazing because nobody can access it.
Yeah.
The only way to get through there is through the mountains, and there's even a
Flying. But
too.
if you don't have the ability of flying,
and
then
zombies can't fly, so
yeah, and they can't run.
and they're able to, and there's one segment in there about an Indian general and how during the whole
Yeah,
story and everything,
yeah.
like during the build-up, there was also there was civil wars going on too. While you people were fighting each other, they were also fighting the dead, and it was just amazing. It was immersive. There was a few times where I actually got scared reading some of the things, but
Mhm.
I do recommend that book. I know that's very nerdy, but it's one of the books I did enjoy, and I smile every time I read about it, or I think about it. But that's what I think books should do when you think about
Oh
them.
no, I totally agree.
But yeah, I've been working on a story myself for a couple of years. I almost lost it for good, like all my hard work gone. I've had to restart maybe twice or once. The first time I lost about 10 pages.
That was heartbreaking,
It is.
actually, to hear about.
And then I lost another story too. That
Mhm.
the title of it was called My Day, and I spent my
The
whole
day
day
you
off.
lost it was not your day.
No, well, no, the day that I made it. I just spent the day writing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I got into it. I got maybe down to like 15 pages. It was a science fiction thing. This one that I'm doing is like science fiction / history / gosh, what do you call it? Science fiction / something. God, I can't even remember what it is. I was able to find it. So hopefully, with your guys' help, I'll be able to have more time to work
Mhm.
on it.
Mhm.
But is there anything you wanted to?
No, I just sometimes I forget that you're a writer, like that you actually are starting a book and.
I get writer's block like
Yeah.
that.
Oh gosh, me too. I mean, I can hardly handle short stories as it is. And my memory is so sporadic. My working memory is just non-existent. I mean, I can hardly remember books I've read. That's why I take notes all the time. But man,
I think this was a good episode. We talked about our favorite books. I think
yeah.
this was
I mean,
going to be a majority.
I mean,
of,
obviously we have more favorite books. I grew up reading Tolkien. I mean, who didn't?
Oh yeah, there's going to be a Tolkien movie coming out too here
Which
soon.
I didn't know about until just a day or two ago
Yeah,
when
I told you.
Logan told me. Super pumped about it. But no, I grew up reading Tolkien. I read all of the C.S. Lewis books, you know, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Silver Chair, blah, 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 blah. So I've always been more of a fantasy, I would say, fantasy allegory type reader. I love reading history. I don't really get into the sci-fi fantasy realm. It just doesn't do anything for me because it's not realistic.
Yeah, me too. It just
Yeah.
I prefer to have some reason.
I like realism.
Yeah.
I like a sense of realism within fantasy that I can grasp onto, but when it's just so far out there, it's unbelievable. It's not going to change my life. It's almost as bad as going on Facebook for an hour. You know, it's not going to do anything for my real life, and therefore it doesn't really have a place in. I don't want to give it space in my mind. But when it's something that's more of an allegory or it's meant to be completely fantasy, that to me is different. Yeah. No. I mean, I could really tell you my favorite book, but I don't think any of our readers are ready for that, so we won't go there.
Oh, I think I know which one it is.
Women Who Changed the World.
Oh.
No, just kidding.
I thought it was the gay. I thought it was the gay billionaire dinosaur who seduced me.
No.
Which you can find on Amazon.
No.
In the audio store.
It delves into a part of our lives that we have agreed not to talk about on this podcast, so we are not going to.
Okay.
So maybe we'll leave an episode and
Well,
people can decide if they want to listen to it or not, but where we completely delve into our personal opinions.
So we could also
But
leave a link.
We could leave a link. I won't even say it.
We could leave a link to a video we make of us talking about arguing.
And we get heated discussions. We do sometimes.
Look, you bitch, he's a Nazi.
Oh my gosh. Just stop looking at the bus, Logan. Come back. Come back to reality.
No, you don't look at the bus.
No. Okay. But yeah, so this definitely wraps up. Oh.
Yeah, you kind of messed up my little outro there, but okay.
It's not a good outro. That was a bullshit outro.
Fine. What do you got? Fine.
Don't look at the bus.